I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's News Update. The Presbyterian Church USA's General Assembly's Middle East Committee voted earlier this week in favor of divesting from 3 companies that it says are continuing to provide services that aid Israel's occupation of the West Bank. The committee said that Caterpillar, Hewlett-Packard, and Motorola Solutions helped Israel's use of their products in violations of Palestinian human rights. The greater Jewish community has continually spoken out against such divestment efforts. In May, a similar proposal was rejected by the Methodist Church after the urging of several Jewish organizations, including the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, the Israel Action Network, and the American Jewish Committee, as well as leaders of the Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform movements. Now, several left-leaning groups, namely Americans for Peace Now and J Street, have called on the Presbyterian Church to abandon this latest proposal. J Street President Jeremy Ben-Ami said even the limited divestment approach under consideration by PCUSA falls under the rubric of larger BDS efforts to place blame entirely on one side of the conflict. Such an approach, Ben-Ami says, encourages not reconciliation, but polarization. A final vote on the resolution will be held either today or tomorrow at the Presbyterian Church's 220th General Assembly taking place in Pittsburgh this week. In our ongoing coverage of the worldwide campaign for the moment of silence to remember the Munich 11 at the upcoming Olympic Games in London, London's Jewish Chronicle reports that there may be some memorial included in the opening ceremony. The paper cites a source claiming that Lord Coe, chairman of the London Organizing Committee for the Olympic Games, had told staff at London City Hall that a memorial or some mention of the 11 Israeli athletes murdered at the 1972 Munich Games was being considered. What form the memorial will take is unclear, but it's believed that it will not be the moment of silence. The International Olympic Committee has so far rejected all official requests for the moment of silence at the July 27th opening ceremony of the London Games. B'nai B'rith International delivered an intervention at the UN Human Rights Council Monday in response to an anti-Israel report. Klaus Netter, B'nai B'rith International's main Geneva representative, responded to the latest report by UN Special Rapporteur Richard Falk on the human rights situation in the occupied territories, which Netter called inherently biased. Netter said the report compares a jailed operative of the Islamic Jihad to Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi championed nonviolence and peaceful coexistence. Islamic Jihad prefers suicide bombings and rocket attacks against Israeli civilians to achieve its objective of wiping Israel off the map. Igal Amir, the assassin of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, is to be let out of solitary confinement after 17 years. The Israel Prison Service made the decision earlier this week and clarified that Amir will not be moved into an open prison ward but will be held in a cell with 2 to 4 other inmates, who will be carefully chosen ahead of time. Amir has been kept in solitary since he entered prison in 1995 for fear that he could spread his ideology to others and also for his own protection. Igal Amir is serving a life sentence. The Republican Jewish Coalition has announced that they are sending 2 of their top officials to Israel to rally for votes. The voter registration drive aimed at expatriates is being led by RJC board member and former George W. Bush press secretary Ari Fleischer and RJC executive director Matt Brooks. The campaign will hit the road in Israel from July the 9th through the 13th and will include town hall meetings with U.S. citizens living abroad. Flying to Israel might seem like a long way to go, but Fleischer said, in this election, every vote is going to be important. The U.S. State Department announced that U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is traveling to Egypt on July the 14th, meeting with Egypt's new president, Mohamed Morsi, for the first time, and then she'll be visiting Israel for 2 days, where Clinton will meet with Israeli leaders to discuss peace efforts. Clinton will also address peace efforts when she meets with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas at the beginning of her trip in Paris. And that's Shalom TV's News Update. I'm Teisha Bader.